before my party can respond to MOH by issue a press statement. Of course, the British Medical Journal has put up a research, published a research paper which actually somehow supported our stand. That not our stand that not that vaccine have caused excess death. BMJ article has very carefully avoided to state that conclusively, even though they have gone through the data analysis, which the or the former, not outgoing really, is a former prime minister, have laid a foundation for the Founders Memorial Park. Okay. Well, in Chinese, we'll say 射成台 for his father and the past PAP's pioneer, all about PAP's pioneer, but never, I don't think it will have Lim Chin Siong inside, because Lim Chin Siong is one of the founders of PAP also. Right? Mr. Fong also, right? Mr. Fong also one of the founders of PAP. I think they will just neglect them, right? It's just about Lee Kuan Yew and his team, and Lee Kuan Yew. Maybe Goh Chok Tong, maybe Lim Chin Siong, but nothing about the founders. The original founders actually include more of the leftist element. Okay? And you know what? They spent almost $250 million, $230 million, $235 million on this going to be white elephant, right? Who will actually visit this kindergarten? Okay lah, PCF kindergarten will sure every year bring them there and look at it and say, wow, this is our founders, these are PAP people, so on and so forth. But would any tourist be interested? I doubt so. All right, I really doubt so. Right? Lee Kuan Yew, when he was alive, he have already said that before. He had been to a lot of Chinese leaders' old memorials and all that, right? And he said that, wow, all these memorials actually quite debilitated, right? Not maintained properly, and actually quite sad. And he put a remark that he did not want a memorial for himself because of his experience of viewing all these so-called the memorials of other great leaders of the Chinese, right? So he didn't want that. He didn't want to have a temple for him to be built, but his son did it otherwise, against his will, and not using his own money, but taxpayers' money. Almost $250 million. And you know how much money is that in terms of yearly? If you take a person, a low-paid person, right, earning 20,000 per year. Right? Keep it simple. Right? Earning 20,000 per year. Do you know how many of people can you feed for 1 year? Right? That's 11,000, almost 12,000 people. This amount of money, you can actually feed 12,000 people for 1 year. Their salary. Okay, the low paid. And PAP government keep telling us that they don't have enough money, and they have to raise GST, not once but twice, 2%, not 1% but 2%. Right? They have the cheek to say that for us, for the retirement and all that, but they spend $250 million on most likely actually it's more than $250 million. You know why? Reclaimed land is very expensive because it's not natural land that is already there. Reclaimed land, you have to go and buy soil, sand to reclaim. and to leave it there for over 10, 20 years before you can use it. Okay? So instead of using it for high value activities or even build houses for us, it's used for this memorial. Okay? So this is PAP, right? I do not need to actually go through all the hassle of criticizing them, because a lot of people have been doing that. I can see all the newspapers, Facebook page, people are saying that, well, we are suffering of high inflation costs, right? Mostly from the GST increase. Due to the GST increase, the water tax increase, the electric tariff increase, and so on and so forth. And these buggers are spending $250 million taxpayers' money to glorify their own party's pioneers. Okay? Now, come. This is the Straits Times reports that comes of it. Okay? The title says, right, these are reports, all darkened. I don't know why, just now it's quite okay. Okay. Basically, these reports, like I said, the British medical journals research papers published, which was actually carried out by scientists, right? By scientists from Holland, Netherlands. Netherlands, I think 4 scientists from Netherlands, right? They said, oh, this is a bias or skewed or unbalanced. But I really wonder whether these experts from Singapore, what credential do they have, more credential than these people to put up such comment, right? I'm not going to attack them. I'm not going to criticize their comment, right? But I want to put things straight. This is the actual report. Okay? This is the actual report. Now, right from the start, if you actually read the report, it's 12 pages, right? 12 pages of it. Not a very lengthy report, actually, but very difficult to read. Even for me, who are trained in statistics, it's very difficult to read. Right? Some of the terms I have not learned before, but the gist of it is this. Okay? They have acknowledged, to my disliking, then to acknowledge, oh, previously there are some research paper that says that the vaccine have 95% efficacy, which we now know that is actually not valid anymore to prevent infection and transmission, right? And they actually says that if you really go and read about it, right, it will prevent excess death, so-called, the claim, because of some papers have done it. They have actually mentioned it, okay? Unlike what the Singapore expert who says that, oh, they are skewed, they didn't mention this and this. No, they have mentioned it. Seriously, they are very balanced. Sometimes I disagree with them with some points, but they are basically very balanced. Okay, very balanced about it. Okay, and they have even considered the multi-factors, right? Multiple factors. What are multiple factors? In statistical terms, we call the multiple variants, right? In the statistics. They even consider people who have died from a heat wave, I think in 2020, end of 2020. They took out the numbers so that it's not going to skew the report. Right? They are very diligent scientists, I would say. I'm very shocked that such claims are made against this report to say that they are biased or they are skewed. They are not. They've considered all aspects. They even say that certain countries have a poor healthcare system and all that. They have to take into consideration, okay, every consideration possible cause of excess death. Contrary to what the Singapore experts trying to imply. It is a very balanced report, right? But what is to their dislike in Singapore, MOH in particular, right, is this report that says they have gone through the adverse event reporting from Europe, from US, right, and UK, the yellow card UK, they call it the yellow card. The EU, they call it the there are certain terms I can't remember offhand now, right? In US, they have a reporting system. They've considered that this is something that Singapore experts don't like. Why? Because in Singapore, we do not have such comprehensive adverse event reporting directly from the patient or the people who are affected. If you want to report this, you have to go through your doctors, and if your doctors refuse to report it, then it's not recorded. Okay? Yes. I want to share these three areas for you and this data, right? What does it say? This infographic is very interesting. It says in 2020, when the pandemic first started, okay? When the pandemic first started, this is what happened, right? High excess death. So you actually conclude that certain countries is doing better and certain countries are not, okay? But we have a lot of excess death in Europe as well as US, right? The red color one, right? The darker red is a more worse one, right? It's 30% to 40% excess death, right? The red color one, the orange color one is 10% to 20%. The darker red, the lighter red color is 20% to 20%. And those with very less, like Canada, there's 0% to 10%, right? Iceland have not. Australia do not have excess death in 2020, even when the pandemic strikes, right? Remember, in 2020, Italy is very hard. Is being struck hard. That's why you see the Italian graph is very jialat. Huh? This time series analysis. Huh? So when you come to 2021, okay, you look at this. And what changed? 2021, the introduction of vaccine. However, even with the introduction of vaccine, right, the Europe get even worse. All red one, correct? You see, American didn't improve. Canada start to have excess death. Previously, it did not have. Okay. Now, after the vaccination program more or less stopped, because nobody would take the vaccine anymore in 2020, this is the result, right? This is the result. What does it say here? Well, when people stop taking the vaccine in 2022, okay, you start to see better results. The maximum, so-called the maximum excess time is only 20%. Australia, Italy is also very jialat, even though they have vaccinated, right? The Nordic countries, some of the Nordic countries, right? High excess death, right? But continue to have excess deaths in most of the part of the world, in the Western world, so-called 0% to 10%. It's still minor, so it actually drops, right? So this is how the European countries look like. Right? This is the data. Okay, look at the data. This is data taken from the report. So we have to be very detailed-minded. And time series, now this report, the research they have, is a multi-factor time series analysis. Not suka-suka one. Huh? if you look at it, 2020, right? There are 21 countries, right, with 0% to 10% excess death. I mean, 45%, almost half of them have excess death below 10%. But 34% of them have 10% to 20%, right? When the onslaught comes in, before the vaccine comes in. Okay? Right? So, when it comes to 2021, when the vaccine was introduced, right, did the situation improve? Those without excess death remains about 11%, right? Slightly less, one country less. Okay? Continue to have 18% of countries with 0% to 10% excess death, right? Then continue to have 8% lower now, right? Lower now to have 10 to 20%. However, 13%, triple, right? Triple of 2020 have 20% to 30% excess death. Okay? This is a year where vaccination was introduced in the early days, like February or March. Okay? 17% compared to 4% in 2020. 2021, they have 17% of countries with excess death of 30% to 40%. And first time in history, in 2021, there are 4% of countries with 40% to 50% excess death. That is a very strong signal. Right? In spite of vaccination, the Delta wave comes in. Maybe due to the Delta wave, nobody knows. It didn't reduce, but the excess death actually increased. So what's happening? Nobody knows. In 2022, when vaccination started to slow down, okay, the excess death actually dropped drastically. Right? Over 50% have less than 10% excess death, 0 to 10%. Right? But, however, although no countries have 20% and above excess death, the majority have 0 to 10% excess death. Is still very much, because those without excess death actually drops to 8% only. From 11%, it dropped to 8%. Okay? And those who have 10% to 20% excess death, right, remains about 18%, 38%, no, increase to 38% countries continue to have excess death of 10% to 20%. So what does it mean? If your vaccine is actually so killer, why would the Western countries, 47 countries of them in aggregate, okay, would have so much excess death? More countries having more excess death than 2020 and 2021. When the Omicron came in, is supposed to be less fatal, correct? This is actually a time series study, right? All the 47 countries are the same countries. Put it in the simple terms. Can anyone explain that? Don't give me the vaccine will reduce excess death and all that, but it didn't show so. When the vaccine first introduced in 2021, the excess death went up, and continuing in 2022, although the excess death is not in the 30% or more than 20%, but still a lot of countries have over 10% excess death. Correct or not? I am And this SSDEF has already taken out those who are suffered from heat wave. Okay, correct. So these are the hard data. And then don't try to target to wayang. They say, oh, it's skewed and it's all that vaccine prevent so-called prevent excess death. But that is simulation because you do not have a randomized controlled trial. We know that. It's impossible to have. We can only depend on big data and see the trend. Trend observation is important. Well, they keep saying, oh, what correlation is not causation. No, that statement is inaccurate. Correlation may not be causation, but it also may be causation. That's number one. Right? Why? Because causation definitely affects correlation. So how do you determine causation without knowing it in the first place? You still have to look back at the correlation. Okay? This is as the statistical students, statistics students, we are always tested on this concept. A implies B doesn't mean B implies A. But without looking at B, we do not know whether it's relevant. If there's no correlation at all, then definitely we can safely say that the vaccine doesn't create excess death, correct? If no correlation, how to ascertain that it is a possibility at all? So they are trying to gaslight everybody with such a chim sounding statement, but it's incorrect and incomplete. I'm in statistics, by the way. I study statistics, so don't play with me. These are very basic statistics logic. Now, after looking at the Western data, look at what is happening in Singapore. Actually, in my party's upcoming response, press statement, we will show how we derive our conclusion, the data perspective. And I want to tell everyone, in spite of the fact that MOH keep so angrily accuse us of putting up egregious false claim, right? We did not. We are evidence-based. Last time when I see signals coming up here and there, I start to raise the alarm. They said, no, you are making false claim and this and that. Oh, because it's single-digit data. I say, okay. I tell them, these are the signals we cannot ignore. If you want to ignore, can. We will, for the time being, back then, back in 2021, I say, okay, we will wait. I will wait. I wait for the long-term data. And now we are having the long-term data. So 3 years is a long-term data. Now I come back. I'm telling them that, look, the data doesn't look good. Why doesn't it look good? Look at this. This is the Singapore SSDEF data. Monthly data, right? Monthly data from 2021 to 2022 to 2023. I didn't include 2020 because even the fact that it is a COVID year, right? Because we only have SSDEF initially, right in front. Okay? Up to June, I think. Because we did not practice lockdown, we still happily go for Jinke procession. We still happily tell people not to wear masks. That's why we have SSDEF. After that, they U-turn, there's no SSDEF. Right? So I will take that as a base. You will skew a bit, never mind. It's a base. Right? This data is compared to the average from 2018 to 2020. Because the trend is more or less the same. In the BMJ article, right, done by the Netherlands scientists, they have actually said something like this. They did not compare data which is much earlier. Much earlier, they're definitely lower one. They refuse to compare. It's correct, right? It's correct, right? It will actually make the SSF look bigger. Why would they not compare? Because the trend is totally different. So they use 2019 and 2018 also, the data, to make a comparison. Okay, that is correct. You have to look at the context of the data before you make appropriate comparison. So who says they are skewed? They are very, very balanced. When I read through the reports and how they derive and how, beside the technicalities of using Poisson equation and all that, linear regression and all that, put it aside. Because that is too technical for layman's term. Right? I'm telling you about the concept. They are very balanced. Right? And look at our SSF. 2021 is 12.4%, the starting of the vaccination program. In spite of the fact that in 2021, we have a Delta variant, remember? And it's supposed to cause a lot of death, more death than usual. Okay, we only have 12.49, 12.5 lah, okay, SSF. But by 2022, when they force everyone to take jab, no jab, no job until April. Remember? Right? The third jab and even the fourth jab. What happened? The SSF shoot up to 24.53%. It's even higher than most of the Western countries. Western countries is maximum is 20% only. We are 24.53%, my dear. And even in 2023, SSF didn't come down. Continued to be above 24%, more or less the same. And by looking at the trend for the first quarter of 2024, it is not coming down any sooner. What happened? This is time series consideration. And Singapore is a first world country with so-called first world medical care, right? We are not those kucing kurat, very backward, with insufficient equipment to do life saving, to take care of people who are dying, right? One of the reasons that's raised by the so-called expert interviewed by the Straits Times, he says, oh, some countries have bad healthcare facilities, so therefore the SSF is higher. But we are doing trend. We are doing time series comparison, year by year. Okay? And Singapore is not those countries, but we even have a higher SSF than them. What a shame. What is going on? I have my party, all my teammates are evidence-based. In fact, if we compare our data to the data, and the trend analysis, the time series analysis done by the Netherlands scientists, we are even worse. Our situation is even worse than them. Okay? Should we or should we not be concerned? Should we or should we not be concerned? Remember, they can continue to smear me, say I POFMA, I gonna POFMA this and that, but first of all, if you do not know the truth, how do you know the falsehood? Right? Actually, laugh at the POFMA they throw at me. It's okay. But you continue to smear me that say I talk rubbish, make outrageous, basically outrageous false claims some more. I did not put up false claim. I did not claim. I didn't, in spite of the fact of this data, that is so glaring to me, right? From my gut feeling and my instinct, I did not say the vaccine is definitely at fault because they are multivariant, or in statistical terms, we call a multiple factors involved. Right? I did not straight away say that, oh, this must be so. No. What my party and me are saying that we have a serious concern. We have a serious, even more serious problems of excess death than the Western countries. In spite of the fact that we have one of the highest vaccination rate. Okay. I want to remind Ministry of Health in a very simple terms. You cannot get scientific truth by smearing those who disagree with you. Right? In science, we debate, right? We propose a proposition, hypothesis, and back it up with data or research findings. Right? And truth is not absolute sometimes. Because when more evidence and more data and more situation change, because in the real life, you have multiple factors. When situation change, we have to pause and review and rethink. Every person, including me, and including all the experts in the world, can be proven wrong. Because the matured administrators or scientists would always follow the evidence. And that is the data and the information and the new discovery of information. What they are doing is actually politicking. You cannot get the scientific truth to politicking, to smearing your opponents. Because it's Goh Singh who say, because it's opposition parties that say, wow, we must smear them. Even to smear all the experts that we have listed. I can list some more experts. Now, today I'm going to list new expert from Japan. This is a professor emeritus. Emeritus is very high level professor, right, from Japan. Okay, his name, what is his name? His name is Yasuhiro Murakami of Tokyo University of Science. And what is his credential? Right? Before I go into this, if any of the experts in Singapore can match his credential, then you speak. Okay? Because Singaporeans are like that, always look down on people without credential. Because I don't have a medical certification. So they look down at me. They say I'm talking nonsense. But I'm not talking about nonsense. I have a statistical background. Okay? Okay? I have a statistical background. He completed the doctoral course at the University of Tokyo, Graduate School of Pharmaceutical Sciences. He specialized in this, remember. Albert Einstein Medical School, right? Department of Immunology, right? Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, right? And he became engaging intra-research on antibody drugs, right? He's an expert in that. He became a professor at Tokyo University of Science, Department of Biotechnology, and a visiting professor at tutorial universities. Right? Specialty fields include antibody drugs, genomic biology, and genetic engineering. And that is Professor Emeritus Yasuhiro Murakami. And this is what he has been saying. Watch.
東京理科大学名誉教授、村上康美先生とお送りしたいと思います。
一人の研究者が DNA が混じってるってことに気づいてしまったということで、本来はその mRNA しかないはずが、その中に DNA が混じっていて、それも相当いっぱい入ってるというあたりの情報が3月に見つかりましてですね。で、そこから僕、様子をずっと見てたんですが、複数の研究者が同じデータを出してきたと。 いうふうなことでもう間違いないということなんですが、一つ問題なのは、がんウイルスもですね、一部の、塩基配列が入っていて、
SV40 という。
SV40 っていう有名ながんウイルスがありまして、
はい、
それのプロモーター配列が、どうやら混じっているものがあると。ウイルスの遺伝子の発現を上げるのに必要な配列が入ってるんですよ。それがヒトゲノムに入ってしまうと。で、そうなると発がん遺伝子っていうのはいっぱいありますので、もうヒトゲノムには、その周辺に入ってしまうと、発がん遺伝子を活性化してしまうと。というあたりが分かってきてですね。はい、で、否定する勢力だとか、いや、大きな問題だというふうなことで、吸ったもんだと言いますか、いろいろ話がなされていたんですが、まあ、方向性としてはもう入っていることは間違いないというところまでやってきて、で、有名な二人の研究者がその証明したと。はい、問題は DNA だとスッと入っちゃうんです。
なるほど。
ということで、変異を誘導したりですね、人の発がん遺伝子を活性化したりっていう現象が起きてしまうと。
先生、これ、現象面としてね、我々にはどういう形で体に害が現れるでしょうか？
ですね、DNA っていうのは変異を誘導するってわかりますかね。ヒトゲノムのあちこちに入っちゃうわけですよね。で、短いものにしても長いものにしても細胞に非常によく入りやすいので、あちこちに入るわけですよ。で、そうなると重要な遺伝子の真ん中に入っちゃいますと、その重要な遺伝子が働かなくなるというのもありますし、もう一つ問題はがんウイルスのプロモーター配列があって、それが本来眠っている発がん遺伝子の周辺に入ってしまいますと、目を覚ましちゃうんですよね。で、そうなるとがんの発生確率が上がってしまうと。一番問題なのは、メッセンジャー型ワクチンを免疫能力を抑える働きをするってことはこれまで申し上げました。で、免疫能力を抑えた状態で、発がんの上げるわけです、確率を。で、そうするとですね、発がんのまずリスクを高めて免疫まで落っこちますから、普段の状態と比べると、打ってない状態と比べると、ものすごいリスクが上がるわけですよね。それが多分大きな問題で、それで、打てば打つほど、おそらく増えていくがん患者。
そのがんっていうのは、例えば、いろんながんがありますよね。肺がん、胃がん、その大腸がんとか、また血液のがんとか、いろいろあるわけですけれども、それはもう、どういうものがということはなく、全体的に。
どういうことはなく増えそうなんですけれども、白血病が確かに増えてるっていう情報はあります。白血球にこれ入るじゃないですか。注射すると、あちこちの赤血球とかにこれ、膜にくっつきますので、白血病が増えてるっていう報告もありますし、ファイザー社の方のメッセンジャー型ワクチンには、SV40 の、配列がプロモーター配列、エアンサー配列入ってると。
これはだけどもう、歴然とした事実なんですよね。
歴然とした事実で、複数のグループがこの配列を見つけてます。あとですね、スパイクのメッセンジャー RNA がいっぱい作られるじゃないですか、一番スパイクが守られるはずなんですよ、破壊から。ということは、スパイクの遺伝子はもしかすると長いまま残っていると。だから、スパイクの遺伝子がこの状態で残ってますと、それがヒトゲノムに入っちゃいますとですね、安定発現っていうかね、ずっと発現しっぱなしに
もう永遠に
スパイク発現すると。
いや
で、もちろん幹細胞っていう細胞がありまして、そこに入らなければ、その細胞ってのは入れ替わりますから、細胞が。そういうものに入らなければ、除かれるんですけども。
幹細胞に入っちゃったら。
幹細胞に入ったらずっとこれ残りますよね。
その幹細胞に DNA が入っていくと、そのどんどんスパイクをこう作り続けちゃう。で、そうすると、その結果 IgG4 が誘導されてくる。
誘導されますよね。問題は IgG4 が誘導されるとですね、スパイク産生細胞が減らなくなるんです。覗けなくなるんですよ、IgG4 だと。初めは IgG1、G3 が反応しますので、覗いてるはずなんですけども、いずれ IgG4 になりますので、スパイクがあるのは普通の状態になっちゃうんですよね。
あって当たり前の。
だって当然の状態になってしまうんですよ。だからそうなってしまうと、産生したスパイクが血中に流れて、いろいろ悪さをするというふうな状態に、なってしまうので、だから、IgG4 を誘導するワクチンはみんな失敗として位置づけられる。
つまり IgG4 が出てくるワクチンはもう作っちゃいけないと。
そういうことです。
いうことですよね。
そういうことなんです。
いや、僕の知り合いでね、ずっと健康診断毎年受けてて、なんてことない、全く健康そのものだった人がですね、この間体の調子悪いって言って医者に行ったら、癌だと しかも、いきなりステージ4だと言われて。
そうなんです。普通は癌細胞が生まれて緩やかに増殖しますか
ですよ
ら、
ね。
それ何年がかりかでステージ4まで行くんですよ。
ところが発見された途端にステージ4って言われた。で、これは先生、今回ワクチンがそれに関与してるとしたら、
多分
どういうことが
多分免疫能力を抑えているので、癌細胞が増えやすいやつなんですね。
いわゆるターボガンっていうもの。
ターボガンですよね。免疫能力を抑えてる方が多分大きいと思うんですよ。IgG4 が増えると癌免疫が抑えられますから。それも非常に大きな問題ですよね。一つ言えることとしては、より多くの DNA が混じっていればいるほど、激しい炎症を誘導するんですよ。異物なわけですよ、DNA っていう細胞からしてみると。そこで激しい反応が発生したり、その細胞が免疫系に殺されるんですよね。だから、より多くの DNA が混じってる方が、副反応は激しく出ると思うんですよね。
つまり、ロットによって、例えば大丈夫なロットっていうのは、じゃあそういう不純物が
何かっていう可能性はいろいろありますけれども、一つの可能性は DNA かもしれません。本来は DNA っていうのは細胞に入れてはいけないんですよ。
When I actually saw these videos just a couple of days ago, I was quite shocked because I've been reading some of the people who talk about having turbo cancer, how there are basically two main reasons. One is DNA contamination of the vaccine. Right? Some of the researchers have found some of the vials, right? Not all the vaccine, but some of the vials were contaminated by DNA fragments. The other one was another research was talking about how the p53 proteins will suppress our own cancer fighter, was suppressed by the spike protein, right? And the other third one mentioned by this professor, right, is that the suppression of our immunity by the IgG4. I do not know whether it's the same thing, but that is what he's trying to say. And turbo cancer. People say, oh, turbo cancer has conspiracy theories terms and all that. But we are actually seeing it in our real life right now. Right? Some of my associates was telling me that they have friends who detected cancer, who are very healthy all along, have yearly checkup, but once they found that they have cancer, within months, or at the point of finding they have cancer is already stage 4. And within months, they pass away. It's unusual. These are the signals again, right? These are the signals. So in Japan, it's not only one professor that are saying this, right? The other professor I've shown you, right, from Japan. This is the second professor. And in fact, there's a group of professors that have issued a statement earlier on this year that urged the Japanese government to reconsider the vaccination program because they find leukemia, it was mentioned, the incidence of leukemia shot up, spikes. They are not like the BMJ journals are. They're basically pointing straight to the vaccines, that the vaccines, some will cause certain problems because some of the vials are actually contaminated by DNA fragments. Right? So, I just want to say this. Right? I acknowledge PAP is very powerful. It controls the media. It is the sole ruling party for so many years, decades. Right? And the Ministry of Health has a full power, legitimate power, right? Jurisdiction to decide on all matters with regards to the COVID vaccination program. And he even have a power, right, to utilize all the resources, all his experts, to smear us instead of debating with us, instead of telling us which are the research they've done overseas or local, and the data analysis is local, that shows that the vaccine is very safe, right? It can only as safe as whether you are willing to accept adverse event reports from the ground, and not through the doctors who are so afraid to report any adverse event, right? And this to discredit everyone, and they thought that is science. That is not science. That's immaturity. That's politicking. But they have the power to do it. I acknowledge. It's okay. My reputation is worth every cent if I can save even just a life or two. Right? However, I must remind the Ministry of Health, possessing such power would also accompany with full responsibility for their own decisions. Right? And as an administrator, you should be objective. You should be objectively assessing ongoing information that comes in, and not be biased, have a preset stance to say that the vaccine have nothing wrong, only other people wrong, only your expert is the best in the world, all other experts are just nuts. Huh? That is not the way to deal with matured scientific exploration of truth. Right? And they should bear full responsibility for their decision. If their decision continue to say that we want to continue the mRNA COVID vaccination program, right, then it is now based on full informed knowledge of the following. Right? Number one, mRNA technology has not passed any safety standards before COVID vaccines was so-called approved for EUA by FDA in US. They have not produced a single medical treatment successfully due to safety concerns. Right? Number two, this they should know a long time ago. Right? It's a public info. I'm just reminding them. And they know fully well that mRNA vaccines was given EUA with only 6-month testing without long-term safety data. Zero, not. What we are seeing right now are exactly the long-term safety data. But they ignore and refuse to acknowledge their possibility. Even to acknowledge possibility, not to acknowledge that it is so. To even refuse to acknowledge that the vaccination program may be one of the prime suspects of high excess death in Singapore and around the world. And number three, mRNA vaccines have proven, contrary to its initial claims of 95% efficacy, in neither prevent infections nor transmission of COVID virus. This is already the first alarm. When the manufacturer claims something and it found to be untrue, you should be alarmed. Why? Back to the first principle. Because coronavirus mutates too fast. No vaccine can catch up with it. Okay? Number four, there isn't any consensus of the safety aspect of the mRNA vaccine right from the start. Why? Because when it first started, there are so many reports of adverse side effects, whether it's in US or in Europe or in UK. Right? But all the establishment, all the governments ignore. In Singapore, right, the doctors refuse to acknowledge and refuse to report the adverse event. Even But the patients who knows that, wow, yesterday I took the vaccine, then today, wow, I jialat, they refuse to acknowledge. You ask Charlene Lin, she's the best case. Right? Totally refused to acknowledge. Right? In spite of the various, number 5, in spite of various claims made on mRNA vaccines effectiveness, we continue to suffer waves after waves of infection. The last wave was in December. Now we have this another wave right now, just a few months later, with different variant. Or is it the same variant? Nobody knows, okay? Because it mutates too fast. Within months, it can mutate. Okay? And number 6, we are also seeing extremely high all-cause excess death. All-cause excess death of 20% after 3 years of vaccination program. In fact, it was 24%, if we calculate properly. Right? But on average, it's 20% for the 3 years. Right? They know this. They should know this because this data is very easily available. It's all open data. I have no secret source. I have exactly no secret source whatsoever. Right? And the number 7, most importantly, including the recent research papers published in the British Medical Journal, there are more and more research findings expressing worrying safety issues from the mRNA vaccine. Just now, that good professor from Japan, right, I've already said, what is worrying? Your body, it says that with the DNA contamination, your body will continue to produce the spike proteins continuingly. And that is a cause of concern. And in fact, I know Charlene Lin personally, she has spoke to me. She have stated openly also, after 2 years of vaccination, right, after 2 years, almost 2 years, she still have blood clot. I was very puzzled. I look at her. Does it mean that your body is still producing the spike proteins? We have no answers. We are not expert. But that is the only logical conclusion. How can your body continue to have blood clot after 2 years of vaccination? And she got injured from it, which was not acknowledged by MOH at all, refused to acknowledge. Right? Now, number 8, of course, the most recent research papers published in BMJ has raised evidence-based concern. It is a very balanced research papers. Even so, even when there is high correlation of vaccine injury to high excess death, they didn't straight away accuse that vaccine is definitely the cause. He didn't say that. It's very balanced. He just say that it is a cause for concern. And all government around the world, including Singapore government, especially Singapore government, when we are facing 20% of excess death, higher than that for last year, should be very concerned about it, to do an in-depth study and be very cautious of whatever measures that we are taking, which implicitly what they are trying to say that, should we continue the vaccination program? Right? And it coincides with our call, the People's Power Party call for caution at this moment. And that is the reason we see the same data in Singapore, the time series data. Right? We saw it. And that is why we raise the caution, especially when MOH is calling, asking people, SMS people to go and take their next jab. We are very concerned. And we are not making false claim. It is evidence-based on the data we have on hand. I do not know what study MOH have done, the experts have done, how do data explain the 4,000 excess deaths that we have every year since 2022 to 2023. I do not know how they are going to explain it, but that is the fact. Right? Don't give me the crap that vaccination prevent excess death. If it is so, why are we having 4,000 over the excess death? Continue. After the virus, supposed to be milder, not causing more fatality, not causing more illness, serious illness. Why is that so? Okay. With all this informed understanding, in all the potential risks raised here by People's Party, by all the research papers done overseas by different countries, right? The Ministry of Health will no longer enjoy the indemnity of ignorance of all these risks. It cannot say, I do not know, I'm not aware, right, of all these risks, all these potential risks that's pointing towards the vaccination program. In a multiple factors situation, we might have a lot of permutation of possibilities, hypotheses. But vaccine program should be one of the prime factors that should be taken into consideration. That is my view and my party's view. If MOH still insists that all this are nonsense, they know it, but they say are nonsense and carry on with this vaccination program, then MOH should rightfully take full responsibility of the continuing vaccination program it so decide. And if science, if scientific discovery ever find that something is really wrong with the vaccine, then I will ask for accountability from MOH, from all the experts. They have denied all these risk factors, all these reports of the risk factors of this vaccine. Fully aware. Right? I want to stress again, science is never born out of constant smearing and censorship. Truth doesn't need censorship. Truth needs more debates, open opinions, right? Contesting hypotheses and evidence-based deduction, research, right? And all of us have to bear this in mind. We must get the truth out of it through constant objective evidence-based evaluation of data and information that prevail from time to time. Because data and information may not come out yet, but when it comes out, we have to sit down and rethink, right? Without prejudice, without a preset beliefs of prejudice of any stance. And that is how maturity in scientific research should be. Right? We can argue under the cow comes home. Okay? But I believe ultimately, someone have to take responsibility. Okay? I hope I make myself clear. I reject all the smearing by the mainstream medias and by the Ministry of Health to say that we make false claim. Our our proposition, we didn't even make any claims in the first place. Right? We didn't make any claims. We didn't say vaccine is definitely the factor, because there are too many factors. And I stress again, and the randomized, double-blind, controlled trial is no longer possible. Right? But the correlations are the signals are just too glaring. And we must exercise caution. That is all we say. We did not make any claims. Never false claim, but evidence-based, the database, to make our call to the Ministry of Health to pause, suspend it, and do a thorough review in view of all this recent research publication. Whether it's for cardio, we already know myocarditis and pericarditis, right? Cardio problems, blood clot issue, and now oncologists, cancer issue. And the big bomb is actually the British Medical Journal's article on the suggestion of a strong correlation of the vaccination program to assess that. Please support us, our effort, right? In order to bring our voice, a rational voice, which is based on evidence and data and information, latest information, that the mainstream media refuse to report. When they start to criticize this British Medical Journal, they didn't even publish the journal, what it's actually saying, but just very eagerly go and ask people to discredit the journal. That is not the way. It's unhelpful at all. Right? I doubt the journalists are actually reads all the 12 pages and understand it thoroughly. Right? Or else she won't be writing in that sense if she really reads the paper carefully. Please donate to People's Power Party and our effort in the coming election. Thank you and good night.